Part 40. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 391. Chapter 391, Fooled. You really want to take them away? Fujuxiao frowned slightly. The two children had their heads drooped, looking honest and humble. Neza felt more and more that they had been wronged. Step forward and pick up two children, one on each side. Take it away. You are a good husband, but not a good father. You are too harsh on your children. You actually plan to seal off their spiritual power, and you actually want to teach them the rules. They are only 2 years old. Do you know how precious they are in the God realm? Children without a father or a mother are already pitiful. It's really disappointing that you are so harsh. If you can't teach your children well, then let me do it. The third Prince Neza looked dissatisfied. The prince wanted to explain to his majesty, but Fujuxiao waved his hand. That's all. If you want to raise him, let's do it for 7 days. If you can't hold on, send him back. Fujuxiao felt pity for Neza from the bottom of his heart. Are you afraid you have forgotten what Sushui looked like back then? Those are double the power. Poor, no, they are not pitiful at all. 7 days, Neza frowned fiercely. Can't hold on? What nonsense are you talking about? How difficult can it be for a 2-year-old child? Neza said that he couldn't understand it. Chaos, with a bulging belly, returned to the scene at some point. How about we seal the spiritual power of the two young masters? We can seal half of it. Chaos, you have changed. Neza looked disgusted, and Chaos rolled his eyes silently. There is no need for spiritual power, just go to Qianyuan Mountain to learn your skills. In that case, go and kowtow to your mother, and then go back to your grandfather's house to tell them not to worry. Fujuxiao saw the excited expressions of the two little guys and knew that Neza was going to be in bad luck. After Neza led the children away, the prince said quietly, Your Majesty, do you really want them to go to Qianyuan Mountain? What if I don't go? If Neza doesn't come today, other gods will come tomorrow. I can understand that they feel sorry for their children. But the two children are very powerful. If they are not taught strictly when they are young, they will definitely cause great trouble in the future. They wanted to teach, so they sent them to stay for a few days one by one. They will beg to be sent back, and after being sent back, they will never interfere with education again. It is not good if there are many people who teach. Fujuxiao didn't stop her. Recently, Sushui's soul has awakened and she can't be distracted. It is a good time to take this opportunity to solve the problem of children's education. There are too many people interfering. Everyone, I feel pity for the two young masters. The prince sighed. Chaos curled his lips. They are not. The two little masters are born with spiritual bones. No matter which path they cultivate, they will lead the entire divine world. There are 3 points for pity, and 7 points for wanting to be accepted into the section. There are also factions in the divine world. What's more, I've been to the Buddha realm several times, and I plan to cross over to them when I come to the Buddha realm. The prince suddenly panicked. Then if we send him out, will they detain the young master and not send him back? In an instant, sweat broke out on his forehead. Then you're overthinking it. Fujuxiao shook his head. They thought the same way about Sushui back then. None of the gods in the 3 realms can bear it. These two little devils are as good at tormenting people as Sushui. Fu Ziyan and Fu Huizi went to kowtow to Sushui first. The two children looked at Sushui's clay figurine and cautiously reached out and touched it. Mother. Is this my mother? The soft and waxy voices of the two children made Neza feel sad. After coaxing him for a while, he went to Yan's house again. Although Mrs. Lin was reluctant to let go of her two children, she knew that her children were capable of learning, so she agreed with tears in her eyes. Several uncles said goodbye one by one and followed Neza to Qianyuan Mountain. Neza rises into the clouds. Qianyuan mountain is as tall as a cloud, and the mountain is steep. There are many palaces located on the top of the mountain. Hide among the layers of white clouds, slightly mysterious. Through the clouds, the group landed in front of the golden light cave. That is my dojo. My master, Master Tai, is practicing in seclusion. Follow me to the golden light cave to rest. Here is a lotus root field, planted by Master. Master used lotus roots as an incarnation to give me a second life. Neza couldn't help but sigh when he thought of what happened when he was young. Did you really peel off the bones of Prince Long? Xiao Xian asked curiously. Neza raised his eyebrows and said, that's natural. One person does what he does and the other takes responsibility. I have never covered it up. A man is a man who does what he does, and what he doesn't do the right thing and kill those who deserve to be killed. Although I paid a heavy price at that time, he and his father almost broke up. What about Longjin? Xiao Huizi asked. Neza curled up his lips and said, the Dragon King flooded Chintaguan. After I committed suicide, your mother took the dragon tendons to jump rope. Didn't the Dragon King cause trouble for her? Xiao Xian's speech was not clear and his words were unclear, but he was very organized. Look, I asked your mother to use dragon sinews as a whip and gave her a whipping. The reason was that she was not a godfather. She even cut off one of the dragon's horns. You are much more well behaved than your mother. Even so, the corners of Neza's lips curled up when he mentioned Sushui. Okay, don't mention this. When you come here, you can play in peace and don't take your cold-blooded father to heart. You are born with the power of gods and have unlimited lifespan. You do not need to be trapped in the rules and regulations like mortals. You are free and unrestrained. In Qianyuan Mountain, you can do whatever you want. What about the mistake you made? Xiao Xian looked up at her uncle with a cute little face. The eyes are full of expectation and trust. Ouch, Neza was fooled by this little look on the spot. Which child doesn't make mistakes? This is normal. If he makes a mistake, his uncle will cover it up. As for sealing spiritual power, that's something only animals can do. You are born to be high and respected. Why do you need to share the same teachings with mortals? Neza is naturally free and easy, and he is even more free and easy after teaching his two children. Uncle Neza, you are so kind. Uncle Neza is the best in the three worlds. The two children jumped up immediately and stamped their feet happily. Who is the best, me or the Buddha? Neza asked with a smile. Of course it's Uncle Neza. The two children looked sincere. The Buddhist sect returned to its throne a year ago. That monk has 800 eyes. Hunting around in the mortal world and refusing to return. I thought he went on vacation on purpose. Be good. He actually wanted to take advantage of these two brats. So angry. At that time, the Buddhist community thought that Sushui was born with wisdom and wanted to ordain her. However, she persuaded her to lose her Buddhist merit. I thought the Buddhist world had given up on this idea. Unexpectedly. Back then Sui was still a child, but those people in the Buddhist world were eyeing her baby even in her future. Now that Sui's soul is reunited, the Buddhist world has helped a lot, and Fujuxiao and his wife owe a huge debt of gratitude. Neza was so angry that his teeth itched. We'll see. These two children trust me, like me, and voluntarily stay in Qianyuan Mountain. The Buddhist world can only jump around. Neza vowed to do so. How easy is it to teach children? He can't handle a 2-year-old baby? End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 392. Chapter 392. The Great Tribulation of the Dao Ancestor. Uncle, Daddy said we should be spanked if we make a mistake. You won't spank us, will you? Xiao Xian's eyelashes were thick and long, and she looked at Uncle Neza with a look of worry. Neza felt very distressed. Your father is really cruel. What does a 2-year-old know? Just teach him well. Besides, which child doesn't make mistakes? I made a huge mistake back then. Neza was very angry. Don't be afraid, uncle won't hit anyone. Besides, how much mistake can two children make? Neza was speechless, thinking that Fujuxiao was too cruel. Then Neza led the two children to visit around Qianyuan mountain. What is this? Xiao Huizi pointed at the mythical beast in the distance. This is the master's spiritual beast, the most precious treasure in the world. The treasure is psychic and is called auspiciousness. It cannot be touched by the world. The master can only raise it and cannot touch it. The spiritual beast was all white and looked unattainable. What about here? What about this? What about this? The two children looked like they had 100,000 questions and were extremely interested in everything. Your father is a petty person. How can heirs of gods live so cautiously? He is not bound by the world, so he wants you to be raised like mortals. It's really frustrating. Neza became more and more angry as he thought about it, and he really wronged the two little sons of gods. Here, this is my master's master, Shi Tianzun, who is the ancestor of our section. He is called the Dao ancestor. After the creation of the world by the God of creation, heaven and earth did not formulate rules, and the three realms were in chaos. Shi Tianzun died as a martyr to end the troubled times. At that time, Shi Tianzun's disciples were all over the three realms, and each one of them was a well-known big shot. Neza offered a stick of incense to Daozu. But Daozu never made a single mistake in his life, but he missed one hexagram in his life. Neza said with a smile. He once calculated that in his 63,127 years, he would suffer a calamity. Master and all the masters and uncles were in full formation, trying to break the catastrophe. But later I discovered that Shi Tianzun had only lived for more than 20,000 years. How could there be another disaster after 60,000 years? This calamity is Daozu's only fault. The two children said, oh. It was already afternoon after Neza and his two children visited Qianyuan mountain. In the afternoon, he learned some more techniques. What made his heart beat wildly was that the two children were indeed born with spiritual bones. More than just natural spiritual bones. Your understanding and character are both excellent. Moreover, practice is the greatest test of luck. Their father and mother were conceived by heaven and earth. The child born from the union of the two is simply loved by heaven. This is the next Tao ancestor. It is the rise of their faction. Definitely, we must trick them into coming to Qianyuan mountain. Neza's eyes lit up with joy. If you like Qianyuan mountain, how about staying in Qianyuan mountain in the future? The braid on Xiao Xian's head swayed, but, I will miss my father and mother. I am the same as my sister. That's okay, I think they can go back at any time. Children will leave their parents. But before Neza could give any more advice, the wind chime tied around his waist rang. Hey, master summoned me. Isn't he in retreat? You guys play in Qianyuan mountain for a while. I'll come back as soon as I go. Don't be afraid. You are the sons of God, so you don't have to be afraid of anything. Before Neza walked out of the door, he turned around and said one more thing. Fujuxiao is very strict, he is loose and free with his two children, so of course the two Zay choose him. Neza felt that the matter was 80% or 90% completed, and his steps became jumping and brisk. Wait until he leaves for a while. The two children were quiet for a moment, and not long after. Xiao Huizi poked his sister's chubby cheek and said, I want to see the spiritual beast. It's a treasure of heaven and earth, so you must take a closer look. Xiao Xian took her younger brother and ran out. The two of them had just learned how to use Tenyun, and stumbled out of the house in Tenyun. With a bang, it landed in front of the spirit beast. The unattainable spiritual beast looked at the two cuties with its round eyes. Soft. It's white, it's beautiful. Xiao Huizi stretched out his hand and touched it. Nezha said that the treasure of heaven and earth has a big temper and no one can touch it, but it is very obedient. It's called Ruan Ruan. Xiao Xian smiled so hard that he couldn't see his teeth. The two of them held Xiangrui, who was all white, and climbed up. This is how the general drives his horse, the two children murmured and chirped auspiciously. Feeling the affinity coming from them, they walked out slowly. While walking, the two of them stood outside a palace door. The palace door is restricted and cannot be opened. Xiangrui tilted his head and glanced at them, then lightly touched the palace door with the horn on his head. The palace door creaked and opened automatically. Wow, Ruan Ruan, you are so awesome. The two of them stepped on their feet and touched Ruan Ruan's forehead. In front of the gods of the three realms, they all felt proud and auspicious, and even gently nudged the stomachs of the two little guys. Sent the two cubs into the palace. It's so dark here, what kind of place is it? Light a lamp. Uncle just now taught me how to practice Samadhi true fire. However, my uncle said that Samadhi true fire is rare and cannot be cultivated by others. Uncle's Samadhi true fire is surrounded by a faint purple ring. Xiao Xian thought for a while, silently recited the formula, and made a sound. A small cluster of pure purple flames emerged from the fingertips. Wow, it's more purple than my uncle's. Neither of them understand, let alone know that this is the most yang thing in the three realms, the sixting divine fire. It is the source of all fires. The two of them wandered around the palace, looking around. Seeing a round ball of light in the center of the hall, he stuck his buttocks out and stepped forward to dig. Taigenren at this moment. Have those two children come to Qianyuan mountain? They are here. The two children are extremely satisfied with the disciple. Master, don't worry. They will definitely stay in Qianyuan mountain. The disciple has confidence, Nezha replied. Why did you suddenly wake up from seclusion? Are you worried about your two children? Nezha asked. Taigenren couldn't help but sigh. While I was in retreat, I suddenly thought of Taoist ancestors. When you reach this state, if you suddenly think of something, you must be confused. How old is Daozu now? He asked. Nezha was counting silently in his mind and was suddenly startled. Today is exactly 63,127 years, Nezha said. Taigenren, who is an immortal, jumped up immediately. 63,127 years. The calamity of Dao ancestor, the real person shouted and rushed out. Just left the palace gate. I saw a raging fire breaking out in the Dazu forbidden area opposite. The purple lighting divine fire destroyed the sky and the earth, and burned the tomb of Daozu to the ground. Two babies with dark cheeks ran out of the firelight holding a pile of crystal clear bones. Holding a fly whisk in his hand, Taigenren, who was full of fairy spirit, let out a cry. He fell straight down. The great tribulation of the Dao ancestor. The grave was dug and the bones were dug out. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 393. Chapter 393, Make Lotus Root Powder for Nezha. Two babies came against the light. Like a warrior. It would be better if I didn't hold Daozu's bones in my hands. Xiao Xian's palm-sized face is still full of childishness. The white and tender cheeks were covered with black ashes. In Xiao Huai's arms, he held a crystal skull. It was so exquisite and clear that it looked like it was something other than an ordinary thing. 63,127 Great Tribulations. Damn it, I didn't say it was the exhumation of graves and bones after death. Nezha's eyelids jumped wildly when he saw that the Dao ancestor's heavenly spirit cover had been lifted. His master, who had been practicing for tens of thousands of years, fell straight to the ground at this moment. He couldn't stand the stimulation and fainted. Uncle Neza, your samadhi is so powerful. It only touched the ground and it burned. Fortunately, I ran fast, I scared the baby to death. Xiao Ziyan grinned, his face was dark, and his teeth were extremely white. By the way, what is this? It will glow in the dark. There are round ones and stick-by-wire ones, the two children asked incessantly. Uncle Neza. Xiao Ziyan asked softly. Why are you crying? The two innocent and ignorant Zizai held Deazu's bones and looked up at him with confused faces, their eyes full of worry. Neza burst into tears in his heart. He had to force a smile on his face because he was afraid of scaring the two cubs and then losing his wife and losing his troops. Nothing. Neza's heart ached and numbed. Why did he fall to the ground? Xiao Ziyan pointed to Tai Genren on the ground. This is Master, probably. I'm so excited to see you. Neza glanced at the main hall where the Taoist ancestor rested, and he said, oh, 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 oh. A fire, and everything is burned up. Neza hurriedly helped his master up. The group of people returned to the Golden Light Cave together. Tai Genren opened his eyes weakly and said, Neza, are you getting old? I just had a nightmare, dreaming that Deazu was being dug up and his body was dug up. Ha, it's really funny. When I looked up, I saw a handful of mud inside Deazu's crystal skull, and a flower stuck in the mud. Tai Genren was dizzy, pointing at his skull and trembling. Oh Deazu. Neza covered his face and said, Master, this is not a dream. Tai took a deep breath. Master Dao ancestor, Master's catastrophe has come quietly, Tai almost cried. The two milk babies looked at the bones in their arms and put them down silently. Then he drooped his head and dropped his hands to his sides. The two small knots have fallen apart. Fell down weakly on the little head. An afterthought discovery. They seem to be in trouble. Uncle Neza, are we in trouble? Xiao Ziyan asked softly, his mouth pressed tightly, as if the old man with the white beard was crying. Invite your uncle secretly, don't let the outside world know, be careful not to lose face and be laughed at, Tai said hurriedly. Neza nodded solemnly. Shi Tianzun is the first righteous to be cultivated. Except for the god of creation, he is the same as Junhua. Among them, the creator god has nothing to do. Junhua ignored the general affairs and stayed in seclusion for many years. The status of Shi Tianzun can be imagined. Even the Emperor of Heaven is called a junior in front of him. This is one of the top leaders in the three realms. He founded a sect and established a powerful sect in the three realms. He is a prominent figure in the god realm. As a result, after his death, his grave was dug up and his bones were used to plant flowers. These disciples own countless temples and are gods who can move mountains and fill seas. As a result, even the master's bones could not be protected. Shame on you. My old face has been completely disgraced. Tai Genren secretly glanced at the two dolls. They were a bit smaller than Sushui back then. The baby girl is very much like the god of creation. The boy looks like Fujuxiao. At this moment, the two children were in tears and looked frightened. Tai waved his hand and put away the master's bones. It doesn't matter, it's just a skeleton. Tai's heart was bleeding. If you can keep your two children in Taoism, at least you will have successors. Even Deazu can feel gratified. As soon as he turned his head, he saw a dark thing standing at the entrance of the golden cave. Tai was so frightened that his whole body trembled. What kind of demons and ghosts dare to invade Jianyuan Mountain? Tai Foken waved his head and frowned fiercely, looking a bit like an outsider. The strange thing is that the dark thing has no evil spirit. His whole body was pitch black, so black that he couldn't even see his eyes. It's soft, it's soft. You keep them at the foot of the mountain and feed them the spirit of softness every day. It was in the fire, and all the hair on its body was burned away. Taeai's eyes were almost bleeding. Ouch, his auspiciousness. Burned into black briquettes. What's wrong with him? Xiao Huizi asked. Neza sighed deeply, you must be too excited. After all, Ruan's coat color has not changed for tens of thousands of years. The black color is good and does not look dirty. Dazu is the master's destiny, and Xiangrui is the master's heart and soul. Tisk, master has been a bit stimulated today. Tolerate. I will endure. For the sake of Daemon's final future, I must endure it. Early on the second day, Taeai, with his braided hair, stood in front of his dusty junior brother, silent. The two milk babies held bowls and walked towards Neza tremblingly. Ification. I knew I was wrong. So, I braided master's hair last night. I hope master likes it. The sentence was a bit long, and Zion stuttered. The two uncles looked at Taeai sympathetically. His head is full of whips, but they are all tied with red thin threads. It's annoying to the eyes. Uncle Neza, thank you for your hard work. We made this for you early in the morning. Xiao Huizi put his feet on the table. The bowl is crystal clear and smells sweet. Neza took a careful look at it, then picked up the spoon and stirred it. It was clean and very good. He breathed a sigh of relief. When I heard the two children calling me master, my eyebrows almost rose with joy. Oops, turning into the gate is already half the battle. Let uncle have a taste. Neza took a bite. Sweet and with a light fragrance. What on earth is this made of? It's so clear without any impurities. There is still a spiritual energy flowing after eating. Neza took another big bite. There is some doubt in his eyebrows. That is, there is a strange sense of familiarity. Zion blinked his eyes. Lotus root starch. Lotus root starch made by grinding the lotus root in front of my uncle's main hall into powder and brewing it. This lotus root is plump and sweet. Neza sprayed out all the lotus root starch in a mouthful. The Emperor of Heaven is above, that is his incarnation. Uncle, why are you crying again? Neza said nothing. Silently put down the bowl, picked up the two children and ran towards the mortal world through the clouds and mist. Uncle, why do you want to go home? Isn't the lotus root starch delicious? Next time, I'll make you steamed buns with the white flour in the wooden box. Please don't go home, okay? Xiao Zion held Neza's thigh pitifully. It's just as usual, you just came out yesterday and you're going home today, Xiao Huizi also protested. Neza raised his hand and slapped himself. Bah! 7 days? 3 days? No, 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 I didn't even make it through a day. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 394. Chapter 394, The Great Wrongful Person. Steamed buns. What kind of white flour is used to make steamed buns? There are no mortals in our Qianyuan mountain. The gods have already gone away from the valley and do not eat fireworks, Neza asked doubtfully. In the center of the Qianyuan hall, there are several boxes with some white noodles in them. Yanyan originally wanted to help my uncle and master recuperate and make steamed buns to eat in the evening. The little girl looked well behaved. Uncle, please don't send me back, okay? Qianyuan mountain is so free. Neza's scalp was numb. White noodles, steamed buns. Did you make anything to eat this morning? The two little girls murmured slightly, their eyes full of disappointment. I haven't done it yet, my uncle is going to send me home. Humph. Neza was covered in cold sweat. Those are the ashes of the ancestors. Neza covered his face, and Daezu protected him and escaped. Yanyan, Huizi, cough, there are important things in Qianyuan mountain, and I may not be able to keep you for a long time. Next time, uncle will come to pick you up, Neza coaxed with a compensatory smile. When is the next time? Neza's face froze. Very soon. But let's discuss it and stop calling me master. Your parents are the darlings of heaven and earth, and master is not worthy of being your master. You brothers and sisters, you deserve better, Neza advised earnestly. Qianyuan town cannot bear these two scourges. It's really too much to bear. 10,000 years combined would not be as exciting as this day. Master has made them both cast shadows, and they dare not put them in the Taoist gate. I am afraid that a lot of disciples will be led astray by them. Really, Huaiji was a little doubtful. Didn't Master say that he is the only one in the world who can teach us? Zion immediately retorted, as if he refused to go back. Neza's heart is sour and bitter. He is a dumb man who eats Coptis chinensis. He said in his heart, I didn't expect that you two would be more troubled than Sushui. Master, you just don't admit that you are worse than the Buddha. In fact, the Buddha is better than him. Really? Neza replied seriously. Taoism and Buddhism have been fighting for a lifetime, and this is the first time that the other side has admitted defeat. Buddhism, the two children murmured, looking at Neza. Neza pursed his lips, took out some treasures from his pocket and handed them to her. The two children didn't answer, but still looked at him. Neza handed her another storage space. Your mother has a small world. The small world has sunshine, all things, and can nourish life. It was the beginning of the birth of the three realms, and it is the top space. Given time, it will definitely become a real world. This is second only to her. There is really no even better. The Taoist family is very poor. Neza was almost crying. He knew that it would not be so easy to send these two people back. It is really easy to invite God, but difficult to send him away. Fujuxiao, it turns out you really didn't lie to me. It's because I don't know what is good or bad. Neza saw them nodding and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. As for the disaster, it would lead to Buddhism. I can only feel sorry for all the Buddhist bodhisattvas. It is really. At this moment, Fujuxiao stood on the ground, looking at Neza with a speechless expression. Neza smiled dryly and said with a guilty conscience, I heard that your majesty and Shishen want a child, so they sent it back to you in advance. 3 days and 7 days are too much. Why do you go home after only 1 day? How many days will you stay? Neza coughed slightly. The master fainted, the Taoist sect was poor, and the Taoist ancestors' graves were dug up. If they don't leave, the ashes of the masters and uncles will be steamed into steamed buns. This only took 1 day. 1 day. If we stay any longer, the Taoist sect will be disbanded. These two people are not the hope of Daemon at all, they are the only way out for Daemon. Neza just wishes he could step on the Hot Wheels and have a peach. By the way, I remember that your Taoist ancestor had a hurdle in the 63,127th year. Have you found that hurdle? It seems like it will be this year, right? Fujuxiao suddenly remembered this matter. After Daezu left, the three worlds were muttering that Daezu didn't even live that long, so where did the obstacle come from? Neza's heart trembled. Daezu made a joke with the world, there is nothing wrong with it. His eyes fell on the two dolls. There are no hurdles, there is nothing. After speaking, he paused again. Your Majesty, my disciple, after thinking about it, the child will not be successful if he does not cultivate. After all, the child must be strictly controlled. Sealing spiritual power, it's not a big deal. Even Neza was beaten several times with a stick by his mother when he was a child. The two young highnesses have great power, so they naturally need to be disciplined more strictly. Neza said shamelessly. The old face turned red. Fujuxiao raised his eyebrows. Little brother Neza, even if you don't say anything, I know that you have suffered a big loss. You have changed. Xiao Huizi was so angry that his nose was filled with snot, and he was jumping up and down while pointing at Neza. Yesterday you said, that we, heaven, the Son of God, we are free, the little guy screamed. Neza stepped on the Hot Wheels bravely, fearing that they would knock him off. These two little guys are really talented. Teach the true fire of Samadhi, and the 6 stings of divine fire will come out. Get directly to the top level. Teaching how to fly through the clouds and ride on the mist, these two people can travel thousands of miles in an instant. The stronger the talent, the more axes the brain has. If the two of them become the hope of the Taoist sect, they will probably. The amount of one Dao sect ancestor lost every 3 days. Before it can conquer the realm of gods and Buddha, the Taoist sect must first destroy itself. Amitabha, the great of the Santan Haihui, would actually give trouble to 2 children, a compassionate Buddhist voice sounded. As soon as everyone turned around, they saw a faint golden halo. People from the Buddhist world. Messenger of Sanskrit, aren't you a disciple of the Buddhist sect? You are already very busy preaching scriptures from all walks of life and saving all sentient beings. How could you come to this mortal world? Neza stepped on the wind and fire wheel, far away from the 2 children. Amitabha. I'm just visiting the son of an old friend. Fanyan looked at the 2 pitiful children. The child had tears in his eyes, feeling extremely aggrieved. Neza glanced at them and said, yes, that's how I was deceived yesterday. Buddhism is compassionate. Why would the great god of Santan Haihui trouble 2 children? The innocent child lost his mother at birth. Buddhism cannot bear it. Fanyan clasped his hands together and sighed softly. I came here specially to invite the 2 young sons of gods to stay in Buddhism for a while. The compassion of Bodhisattva. Fujuxiao glanced at Neza, and it seemed that the Taoist sect had done a good job of concealing it. No news was revealed at all. There are some rough guys in the Taoist sect who don't even know how to prepare milk powder. No, the child will be homesick after just 1 day. Neza invited the child home at a high price, but Neza didn't say a word about it. Buddhist people are extremely patient, and there are many bodhisattvas who have parenting experience. Why not go to Buddhism? Fanyan looked at the 2 gods with a smile. The future of the Buddhist world. Hurry to get here. Fortunately, I didn't stay at Daemon. Strange, why didn't Daemon leave the 2 children behind? The Sanskrit messenger smiled slightly. Maybe this is an opportunity for Buddhism. Wait for the messenger to take the people away. Neza, I'm not the only one who is wronged. I feel much better. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 395. Chapter 395. The Bodhisattva is above. Are you really going to let the young master go to the Buddhist world? Chaos looked up at the leaving people. I can confirm that they all love His Highness, but they will never only love His Highness. Their love is not pure. Chaos understands this truth. Just like the original Creator. They love the Creator, and they love the 3 realms even more. They are gods, and it is their duty to protect the 3 realms. For the sake of the 3 realms, resurrect the Creator. Cause the tragedy of the 10 lives of the Creator. Even if they relented in the end, the final outcome was still a sacrifice. Now that the Creator is dead, He can no longer protect the 3 realms. The 3 realms are a piece of loose sand. Since all walks of life are dissatisfied with each other, they can only elect a new master of the 3 realms. The Lord of the 3 realms, if he comes from the Taoist gate, the Taoist gate will surely prosper in the future. Once you emerge from the God realm, your status in the God realm will never be shaken again. From the demon world, the demon world will naturally be able to avenge its past humiliation. From Buddhism, Buddhism will surely become the leader of the 3 realms. They compete for the 2 highnesses and favor the 2 young highnesses. More importantly, it is for profit. Besides, are their teachings really suitable for your highness? They are barely 3 years old, spring has passed and autumn has come, and now they are at most 3 years old. They teach bravery and freedom, but not humility and courtesy. They teach how to eliminate demons and defend the law, but they do not teach the equality of all things. It's never the children they teach. What they teach is the Lord of the realm, the God King with boundless love and no ego. Are you really safe to let them take you away? Fujuxiao turned to look at Chaos. Chaos, have you and I known each other for 40,000 years, right? Fujuxiao asked in a condensed voice. Chaos was stunned for a moment, then nodded. 40,000 years and more have not changed as much as you have in the past 3 years. You are, like a parenting expert now in the past. Chaos spent all his time thinking about great causes, conquering the god realm, and plotting rebellion. Chaos turned his head and said nothing. Fujuxiao put his hands behind his back and looked calm. Do you think we can prevent them from having access to the children? Each of them is a god. They are gods worshipped by the 3 realms. They have the power to move mountains and fill seas, and call for wind and rain. Even if we stop them, they can transform into anything and come into contact with the 2 children. They secretly teach from all sides in private, but it will cause trouble. It's better to let them take it away openly and give up the idea yourself. There are some children that not everyone can teach. Chaos was stunned for a moment, but didn't say anything else. He looked in the direction of the Temple of Heaven and asked in a low voice, "Is she okay? Is she, free from the shackles of heaven?" Fujuxiao had a slight smile on his face and nodded slightly. At this moment, the 2 milk babies were sitting on the cloud of the Sanskrit messenger, shouting with excitement. It will shine golden. It's so lively, like a lantern festival dance. There are golden light groups everywhere. This is the golden light of the merits of the bodhisattvas. Each additional circle of golden light represents the deeper the merits of the body. The Sanskrit messenger explained to the 2 children with all his heart. As soon as I got close to the Buddhist realm, I heard the ethereal sound of wooden fish chanting sutras. The sound of dong 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 is extremely pleasant to the ear. This is a wooden fish, which has the effect of calming the mind and concentrating the mind. The wooden fish in the Buddhist world are influenced by Buddhism and are very close to Buddhism. It sounds really nice. Xiao Ziyan looked surprised. It sounds good, Xiao Huizi also muttered. The smile on the Sanskrit messenger's face became more and more sincere. You 2 young masters, don't you feel sleepy after listening to this? It sounds so pleasant and sweet, so naturally I won't feel sleepy, Xiao Ziyan said in a sweet voice. Has my mother also been to the Buddhist world? Does she also have wisdom? The Sanskrit messenger paused. How should I say it? Your mother was too stubborn and was sent to the Buddhist world to cultivate her mind. She listened to the wooden fish chanting sutras all day long and felt drowsy. Every day, a bodhisattva was randomly selected to put her to sleep. In just 3 days, all her Buddhist merits were wiped out. Fortunately, her child has intelligence. Her relationship with your father is no longer over, and she will not be able to stay in the Buddhist world. The 2 young highnesses are born with wisdom and are born to be saints in the Buddhist world, the Sanskrit messenger said with a smile. The closer you get to the golden light, the stronger the chanting sound inside becomes. The golden light fell on the skin, almost washing away all the turbidity. It brings clarity to one's mind. Wow! Wow! The 2 dolls, who were no taller than their thighs, exclaimed in unison. The 2 of them looked up at the sky full of gods and Buddhas, and shouted happily, "Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva in the temple is alive." The 2 guys were whispering, their faces full of excitement. All the bodhisattvas and venerables put their hands together and showed compassion in their eyes, all showing compassion towards others. Each one of them is a venerable person who has gone through untold hardships to become a saint. Uncle Jing Chen, why is your hair gone? Xiao Ziyan asked in surprise. The left and right sides are filled with bodhisattvas sitting or standing, most of whom have visited the mortal world. The Buddhist sect in the central government is even more acquainted. The pure dust that once existed in the mortal world. Jing Chen has long been shaved and returned to his position. He crosses his legs in the middle with a smile in his eyes. The Buddhist sect is the master of the Buddhist world, so it is natural for him to be censured. What does shaving or not have to do with Buddhism? If you keep your hair long, will you not be a Buddhist and not love the world? The little girl tilted her head, quite puzzled. All the bodhisattvas looked at each other. They are such a gifted child. There is hope for the three realms, and the three realms are blessed. Congratulations to the Buddha for finding hope for the Buddhist world. The two dolls looked puzzled, not understanding why they congratulated them at all. Not long after, a young messenger led them to the apse. This is the time for the venerables to listen to all sentient beings. The class of the two young royal highnesses will be explained to them by the wise venerable. The young messenger clasped his hands together and said, "The wisdom venerable is the wisest person in the three realms." The wise man worries too much and finally enters Buddhism. The two little guys didn't care. Just curiously asked, "What is listening to sentient beings?" The two of them stood on the door of the palace and took a peek. The sound of the wooden fish got a little louder. Why are they suddenly unhappy? Looking like a person with great bitterness and hatred, the two children grabbed the tender flesh on their faces and pulled them down, making them look sad. Because all living beings are unhappy. Bodhisattvas listen to the voices of believers. If believers are not happy, bodhisattvas will be unhappy. The wise venerable came from afar, and his voice carried the breath of seeing through the world, and explained in a low voice. The look he looked at the child was very kind. The two dolls looked up at the wise man. The wise man did not look like a monk, but looked like an old man full of knowledge. "From now on, I will teach you the Dharma." Venerable wisdom led two children, one on the left and one on the right, into the great Buddha hall. This is the main hall of Buddhism. It is the hall of all living beings, a place to listen to all living beings. They will fulfill the wishes of believers who have merit. What are you thinking about? Seeing that they were silent, the wise man couldn't help but ask. Xiao Zian hesitated for a moment. Do we have merit? The two children pointed at themselves. Venerable wisdom smiled softly. You two are the sons of the first God, born with merit. If you pray, all the bodhisattvas and venerables will listen to your wishes. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 396. Chapter 396, The Lord ran away. Then are you really knowledgeable? The two of them were a little unsure. I am the saint of wisdom. The world respects me as the saint of wisdom. I am the ancestor of the world's literati. All students in the world must worship me. The venerable wisdom is the most knowledgeable person in the three realms. The two babies made a pop, and their knees weakened and they knelt down. Please, Lord Wisdom, help me with my homework. I can't finish writing, so Dad slaps me in the palm of my hand. Both of them took out a stack of white paper from their arms. Venerable Wisdom looked at it for a while. Fujuxiao was indeed strict with his two children. The 3-year-old baby started reading and practicing calligraphy very early, and he never neglected it at all. The wise venerable has long since escaped from the worldly world and has developed the ability to be unfazed by favors and disgrace. At this moment, he jumped. I am a saint, a wise saint. The ancestor of all students in the world, you actually asked me to do the homework of a 3-year-old child. Dear God, you promised me to enlighten the future world Lord. The Master of the Realm Lord, a prestigious title. The reality is that he is asked to write homework for the future world Master? You will not. Forget it, I don't want you to teach me. I can't even do my homework. Change the teacher. The two of them pouted and prepared to stand up. Swish. The wisdom patriarch took over their homework with a dark face. The handwriting must be exactly the same. The two children never forgot to tell them. Don't spread it out, not even a word of it. My reputation as the wisdom venerable cannot be lost. Call me, teacher, after all, he became the teacher of the future world lord. These two people were selected by the three realms at the same time. The wisdom venerable gnashed his teeth. The two nodded with smiles. Teacher. Teacher. As a god, the first thing you need to do is learn to listen to your heart. Only by listening to the voices of believers can we understand what believers want. The mouth can lie, but the heart cannot. Only their sincere prayers will be heard by the gods. The wise venerable picked a bodhisattva with a bag of homework. This one is the bodhisattva Guanyin. You can observe the bodhisattva's actions and then listen and bless him. The two children watched attentively. Watching the bodhisattva give birth to children one after another with a flick of his index finger. The two of them waved and grabbed a believer from the light group in front of the bodhisattva. The believing woman has been a vegetarian for 10 years and worships the bodhisattva every day. She only asks for a baby boy to establish her family, and asks the bodhisattva to fulfill her wish. The believing woman wants to have a grandson, she wants to have a successor. The prayer in the light group wants a baby boy. What do you think we should do? The wise man looked at the two dolls. Xiao Ziyan pinched his fingers, not knowing what to do. Her face turned dark, and a touch of spiritual energy shot out from her index finger, which went straight into the light group. The ball of light is 10 times larger than the bodhisattva's. What are you doing? There are too many children. The wise man wanted to stop him, but unexpectedly the spiritual energy rushed straight into the mortal world and into the wombs of the wife's 3 daughters-in-law. I've figured it out. Xiao Ziyan curled his lips. She already had 6 granddaughters, only 2 of whom survived. The other 4 died after birth. Their lifespan was less than 1 day. She believed that her granddaughter had taken over her grandson's place and that only vicious killing would frighten the baby girl. If she wants it, give her a grandson. If you don't give it, it will only kill more innocent children. If I give it to one, wouldn't it make her evil methods easier? What if everyone imitates her? 3 treasures in 1 child and 9 grandchildren, please satisfy her. Venerable Wisdom was stunned and opened his mouth, but not a single word came out. When he was asked to copy homework, he was like a naughty child who was not familiar with the world. But at this moment, he felt surprised. Of course, 9 grandchildren will not be given to her in vain. She is the only one who knows the pain of raising 9 naughty people. But in front of outsiders, she will definitely be arrogant and domineering, because she has many boys in her family. When the child grows up, take back the 9 children one by one. Give her a fatal blow. Let her fall from the clouds to hell. Only then will she understand deeply where she went wrong. There was no smile on her little face. These 9 men, let's pick them from the animal realm. Those who are destined to die young should have the right to live in the animal realm for a lifetime. From the animal realm, people make big mistakes. Really born, I am afraid that life that will torture is better than death. Venerable Wisdom looked at her blankly. At this moment, he actually felt timid. But, this is to send a child, Bodhisattva. I'm not here to exterminate the clan. Venerable Wisdom's eyes trembled. She was only 3 years old. Not as high as other people's legs. How could one define a life so lightly? Not a single step was spared in the justice of the 4 innocent baby girls and the punishment of the family. Every blessing has a virtual future. How about we take a look? Maybe it's different. Maybe she has corrected it. The wise venerable stretched out his hand and touched it in the air. Then the scene of the mortal world appeared. They gave birth to 3 sons. Another birth, 3 more boys. 3 more, 9, 9. My Dong family is lucky. The Dong family finally has a son to inherit the family business. The mean-looking old lady was so happy that she hurriedly killed the chicken. I said, those will dig out the bones and dig out the hearts before they dare to come. They must be blocking the way of the grandson, the old lady cursed while killing the chicken. 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later. Externally, the old lady relied on 9 men and was arrogant and domineering. Inside, the 9 grandsons were eating, drinking, whoring and gambling. She also sold her 2 granddaughters to an old widower, and they died within 3 years. 18 years later. Before the 9 grandsons reach adulthood, 1 grandson will die every month, and all of them will die within 9 months. Kill me, let me live for what? 9 grandsons, the old lady spit out blood and vomited to death. Until death, I never said a word about my granddaughter. But the memories of this life will make her afraid to harm innocent baby girls again for the rest of her life. Venerable Wisdom trembled. Every direction was accurately calculated by her. If she becomes the world lord. With such evil obstacles, it doesn't matter if the clan is exterminated. There are reasons and consequences, and things should be done according to the process. The little milkman waved his hand, and the wise venerable could hardly stand. I can't teach, I can't teach, I can't teach. The wise man shook his head in fright. Let's discuss this. Don't call me teacher, and I won't call you student. Just pretend you've never seen me. How about I write this homework for you for free? Venerable Wisdom squatted in front of the 2 men and spoke cautiously. Teach me a hammer. He is the teacher who wants to know the world master. It is not that we want to destroy the 3 realms. This is a person who cannot tolerate sand in his eyes. She is different from her mother. This guy is more cruel than her mother. The 2 little guys curled their lips in disgust and held out a finger. 1 year's homework. The wise venerable should shed tears. In order to teach him, the Buddhist community persuaded him for a long time before asking him to come out of the mountain. He only met him once, then he picked up the package and ran away overnight. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 397. Chapter 397. The right of ownership of His Highness. Where is the wisdom venerable? The messenger only left for a while, and when he turned around, he saw that the wise man had disappeared. The 2 innocent children spread their hands. I don't know. Maybe they are homesick. Sister is right. Huaiji nodded. The 2 kids shook their heads. They had obviously been coaxing them to call their teacher before, but they turned around and gave them a bunch of goodies. They must have said they didn't recognize him. How can this be? The Buddhist community spent a lot of money to invite him to come out to teach the 2 highnesses. The day is not over yet. Why did he leave? The little envoy looked confused and hurriedly went to invite the bodhisattvas. The bodhisattvas in this assembly had just finished listening to their inner voices, and were quite surprised to hear that the wisdom saint left his post without permission. The holy ancestor of wisdom is a born scholar, and there is no student that he cannot teach. Teach the future world lord that he is the most suitable for the 3 realms. The bodhisattvas looked a little tired. Moreover, it has not yet been determined which of the twins is more suitable to be the world leader. The eldest son, Fu Huizi, has a pure and kind nature and has no shortcomings so far. The second daughter, Fu Zian, is more talented, but this child seems to have his own ideas and is not very controlled. However, considering that her mother is Yan Sushui, everything makes sense. Send people in advance to find the wise ancestors and ask them, let us teach them for the time being. All bodhisattvas are powerful, and it is not difficult to teach children. Fo Zong said calmly. I will obey the decree of the law. All the gods clasped their hands and responded in unison. Later, the Sanskrit envoy set a time for all the bodhisattvas to teach on the spot, 1 day for each person, just in time to gather the strengths of each family. Everyone can see that these 2 children are more intelligent than Sushui. At least, from the moment they entered the door, the 2 children stared intently at the Buddhist temple. And he looked quite appreciative. Mean Sui Sui. I fell into a deep sleep as soon as I entered the door. Everyone nodded. The 3 realms are blessed. The evening of the first day. The venerables were curious about their talents and wisdom, so they decided to investigate the 2 of them together. Then all the venerables preached together. It's exciting. Fujian's wisdom is stronger than imagined. Even the understanding is shocking. The boring and profound Buddhist teachings were readily available to her without even thinking. It's just that I'm young and can't speak in a very reserved manner. Not weaker than Buddhism at all. There was even a bodhisattva whispering in surprise. On the first night, all the sages picked Fujian. Fu Huizi, oh, he is sister now. Everything, what my sister said is good, what my sister said is right, I just remember to cheer for my sister during the whole process. The first all-nighter ended with a discussion on Taoism. The little man is sitting cross-legged on the futon, facing countless bodhisattvas without any stage fright, and he has quite the aura of giving guidance to the country. A person born with wisdom, born with understanding, and born to belong to the Buddhist world. Everyone was blessed by her. After the discussion was over, the messenger took the two men down to rest. There is no need to be formal when you come here. I have already told your father that you will probably stay in the Buddhist world for a long time. You should be free in your own home. The Sanskrit messenger had just entered the school, and his words were still a bit arrogant. Naturally, he stayed with the two children. Are all bodhisattvas so good-tempered? Xiao Xian asked curiously. She has seen the wishes of all living beings, and it is difficult not to be affected by them. Fanyan clasped his hands together and said with a smile, Buddhism is compassionate, but the world is ignorant. Bodhisattvas have achieved enlightenment after years of suffering and practice. How can they be easily angered? People often say that Bodhisattva is compassionate, and that's why. Xiao Xian said thoughtfully. Can I really call it my own home? Are you, being polite? Xiao Xian asked seriously. Monks don't tell lies, you can do as you please. The two little guys looked at each other, and then looked at Sanskrit in embarrassment. I was discussing Taoism last night, the words were a bit enlightening. Xiao Yanyan grinned, looking particularly cute and harmless. The Sanskrit messenger's eyes lit up. I really like it here. The place is so big here. The golden light is shining and the sound of Buddha is ringing in my ears. It's really suitable for a grand event. Xiao Yanyan's eyes were so bright that she almost jumped up. I wonder, what kind of grand event is it? Fanyan frowned slightly. The Buddhist Holy Land does not like noisy but prefers silence. Just as I was thinking about how to refuse, I heard the little girl say. Invite the venerables from all over the world, bring wooden fish, bring incense, the more people, the better, the more people there are, the more lively it will be. The little girl clapped her fingers before she finished speaking. Fanyan frowned. It turned out to be a Dharma conference. Xiao Xian is really very wise. Having been talking about Taoism for just one day, he planned to hold a Dharma conference. He was truly a star of Buddhism. Happily congratulated. It happens to be that the Dharma conference is approaching, so why not move the time forward? I will inform all the venerables later that the hall has not been decorated yet. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Xian raised his chubby paw. I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. Then I'll leave it to you. I will definitely invite all the great powers in the Buddhist world. The Sanskrit messenger clasped his hands in agreement. He turned around and informed all the venerables. All the venerables discussed for a while, thinking that it would be a good thing for the future world leader to have the intention to discuss Buddhism. Hand in immediately. It is normal for a Dharma event held once in 1,000 years to be held 1 or 2 years in advance. Leave everything to your two highnesses. I happened to take a look at how the two young highnesses acted. To tomorrow, although the time is in a hurry, everything is prepared in advance, and there is no rush in the rush. Invitations flew out one by one. This time many young venerables were invited to increase their knowledge. The twins were mysterious and did not allow anyone to enter the Hall of 10,000 Buddhas in advance. The two of them were busy all day long. Until night, Tapa sat in front of the temple. Sister, this is like a grand event in my mother's diary. Xiao Huizi leaned on his sister's shoulder, glanced at the venue, and said vaguely. Sushui is the creator of the world. He has gone back to the past and visited the future unintentionally. She recorded what she saw in the future in a book, but her two children accidentally saw it. At this moment, it was actually transformed bit by bit. Different from the solemn Dharma gathering imagined by the venerables, this one seems to be particularly dazzling. The second day, the young sages arrived at the event first. The light flashes in the hall of 10,000 Buddhas, but outsiders cannot detect it with their spiritual consciousness. I could only vaguely see the movement, which seemed to be greater than in previous years. Exceptionally large. It's quite curious. I heard that early this morning, His Highness sent a lot of scriptures over. All the venerables were very relieved. Have you sent invitations to those people in the God realm? Lord Wu glanced at the heaven realm. The competition between the heavenly world and the Buddhist world for the ownership of His Highness is the most fierce. Let the godly world come and see for themselves that His Highness's wisdom and understanding should be taken seriously. The first invitation I sent to the God realm, Fanyan whispered. Sent directly to Dian. Amitabha. Blessed are the three realms. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 398. Chapter 398, Group Destruction. Dian, the Emperor of Heaven, stood in front of the Buddhist gate with a dark face. The expressions on the faces of the several divine kings behind him were also extremely ugly. Is Emperor Ziwei back? Lord Tianzhou asked. Di Yin shook his head slightly. The daughter of Emperor Ziwei, in order to save the first god, voluntarily gave up all her merits. She almost lost her cultivation. Now Ziwei Xingjun is waiting all night and dare not leave. It's really too much of a lie. The Shishin was originally a person from the divine realm. Even his resurrection is the awakening of the divine realm. The children she bears will naturally belong to the realm of gods. How can the Buddhist world and Taoism be allowed to interfere? One of the Star Lords snorted coldly. Not only that, even the fallen angel realm wants to invite him back. It's really ridiculous. How can the realm master be from the fallen angel realm? The fallen angel realm cannot see the light and hides in a dark corner. It is also worthy of raising a realm lord. This time, we must bring the two young highnesses back to the God realm. How can we let the Son of God wander outside? The expressions of several divine kings were extremely ugly. The last battle with the void caused heavy losses to the God realm, and the god of war and several mainstays died as a result. The status of the divine world is in jeopardy. If the realm lord emerges from the God realm, he can once again put the God realm in an unattainable position. Dian let out a breath. No matter which side you stand on, your two highnesses are a great help. He was getting tired of it. The two highnesses lost their mothers when they were young. He obviously loves and sympathizes with the two children, but unexpectedly he has to compete because of the situation. Treat them as prizes and place them in the central game. Whoever wins takes away the prize. Even liking is mixed with too many things. He was even a little panicked that the two highnesses would end up in Sushui's tragedy. Sushui can't help herself, so should the two children do the same? The moment the gods of the divine world arrived, Buddhism already knew about it. Venerable Wu took several bodhisattvas to greet him at the Buddhist gate. Your Majesty, Emperor Yin, I am sorry to welcome you from afar. The young monk is rude. Your Highness is hosting a Dharma event for the first time, so it is inevitable that you are a little late. Venerable Wu smiled, confident that your Highness has understanding and wisdom. Di Yin nodded slightly. Your Highness is born with divine power. When he was born, the sky was full of visions, and even the ninth heaven was surrounded by countless auspicious clouds. I'm afraid he is more inclined to the divine world, right? After all, it's rare to find someone born with divine bones in a million years. God Lord Tianzhou said with a smile. How can a child who is born with divine bones and son of God become a monk? Besides, since both parents are gods, the child will naturally become a god. This has been the principle since ancient times. The child is playful, so if you want to play in Buddhism for a few days, it's okay, but don't forget to go home. Tianzhou Shenjun refused to give in. Whether it's suitable or not, it's not you or me who have the final say, the child will make his own choice. But the poor monk believes that Buddhism is the most suitable for her. I still feel that she is born to belong to the divine realm. The two parties looked at each other quietly, as if they were unwilling to back down. Everyone looked towards the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven stood with his hands behind his hands, looking into the distance. Where is the Dharma event? Yes. When His Highness first came to the Buddhist world, he showed extraordinary wisdom and understanding. In just 3 days, he wanted to hold a Dharma meeting to discuss Buddhism with all the venerables. Speaking of which, I have never seen it before. Your Highness did it all by himself. Think about it, it should be extremely exciting. After all, no novice monk has come out yet. Every year, venerables and bodhisattvas bring young novices to attend conferences. These conferences are extremely profound and boring and confusing to them. From time to time, novices would leave the venue to take a breather. But today, no one left. You can only get in but not get out. This is the most surprising thing. Even though it was Emperor Yin, my heart couldn't help but sink. If there is no realm master in the God realm, I am afraid that within 100 years, the unshakable status of the God realm will begin to falter. The faces of several people in the God realm are not very good looking. It can only mean that the Son of God and the Goddess have outstanding talents. Both parents are gods, so they will naturally be good. The expression on the Lord Shen's face was a bit ugly. Several Buddhist venerables also frowned and remained silent. Venerable Wu saw that the atmosphere was deadlocked. He couldn't help but say, actually, Buddhism has a way. Today, the world of fallen gods, the world of Buddha, the world of gods, the Taoist sect, and the demons are their own realms. They have the wisdom roots of Buddhism and the bloodline of gods and demons. No matter who you favor, the other party will be dissatisfied. I'm afraid it will cause turmoil in the 3 realms. It's better to gather the strengths of each family and let the world masters take turns to practice. As soon as these words came out, everyone was silent. But I also vaguely understood in my heart that this was probably the best way. No one has ever thought of asking the person involved. At this moment, Sanskrit welcomes several powerful figures in the Buddhist world. The Buddha and the Emperor of Heaven nodded as a courtesy. Everyone has deep expectations for the Dharma ceremony. All people decide where they belong. No one asked them if they wanted to. The enchantment of the Dharma assembly slowly opens. The supreme gods were slightly startled when they saw the colorful light all over the sky. The sound of wooden fish is deafening. All the young novice monks were holding wooden fish in their arms crazily and tapping Buddhist scriptures very rhythmically. Singing and tapping at the same time. Under the confused gazes of the gods, the 2 dolls stood in the center, watching them yell. Bodhisattvas at the back, raise the incense in your hands and ring your wooden fish. Let me hear your voices. Sir, behind you, jump up. The cute boy's face turned red, and he jumped up and down while roaring. Wow, is this what my mother called disco? Let's ring it out, let's get it going. The sound of moving and hitting caused the smile on Buddha's face to crack inch by inch. This is a Dharma conference, his voice became trance-like. I just feel the sound of the wooden fish and the bouncing venerable, and the merits on his head are flying all over the sky. The Sanskrit messenger's scalp feels numb. What a disaster! This is a disaster for Buddhism. The emperor's eyes widened. Took a deep breath. Shit, I heard that for this Dharma conference, all powerful people who had been in retreat for 8,000 years were invited out. Where is the great power? Oh, he looked at it in confusion for a long time, looking at the wooden fish dumbfounded, listening to the rather rhythmic scriptures. I have always thought that I have been in seclusion for too long and have not kept up with the rhythm. Soon. Join it without hesitation. Ozone raised his hand and covered his eyes. Contact the underworld. There are a large number of disciples from our sect who want to go down to experience the tribulation. Character. The piles of merit have all been wiped out. Buddha is exhausted physically and mentally. Wanyan Mercy's face was a little trembling. Tianzhou Shenjun shook his head dully. Then he solemnly said, Buddha loves the world, and the Lord of the world comes from you, we recognize it. Withdrew from the God realm voluntarily. The God realm has dominated the three realms for tens of thousands of years, and all the good things cannot be taken up by the God realm. It's your turn, we accept it. Farewell. After saying that, he turned around and wanted to leave. Mother, how terrifying is it to be able to confuse a group of venerable people to jump off the altar? The God realm must not be completely wiped out. This is no hope. This is the despair that comes to destroy the group. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Sheng. Chapter 399. Chapter 399. This is the calamity. Hey, why are you leaving? Buddha Zone turned around and grabbed the emperor who wanted to leave secretly. Huh, the emperor looked confused and innocent. I'm not going anywhere. I just haven't been to the Buddhist world in many years. I just walked around and looked around. Yes, your Buddhist world has done a good job in building it. This time, the gold medal for the Beautiful Three Realms Awards should be given to the Buddhist world. The Buddhist world is worthy of it, and the Buddhist world is good. The emperor gave a dry cough. The Emperor of Heaven looked at the sky and refused to look at the group of people turning around in the Hall of 10,000 Buddhas. At this moment, he seemed to hear the heartbroken voice of Buddha. The tens of thousands of years of Buddhism's practice came to a screeching halt at this moment. Gold medal, I'm afraid that after tonight, Ozone won't even be able to find the novice monk who received the award. Ozone almost shed tears. He glanced at the young novice monk in the hall. Catch them all in one go. At that time, he calculated that there would be a catastrophe in the Buddha realm, and he worked hard to calculate that catastrophe in the little creator who was raised in the God realm. Finally, he accompanied her to the lower world as he wished, trying to save the Buddhist world with his own body and resist the disaster. Who knows? Finally, he accompanied her to the lower world, got married, and had children with her, and gave birth to children again. Result. It turned out that the disaster was caused by the baby she gave birth to. Died long ago. He personally protected and survived that catastrophe, and he personally planned to invite him back to suppress the Buddhist world. Buddha almost vomited out a mouthful of old blood. Catch them all in one sweep, catch them all in one sweep. It is indeed a great calamity. Buddha still showed mercy on his face, and even the Emperor of Heaven could not bear to look at him. Surprisingly glanced at Tianzhou Shenjun. Just now they secretly discussed that the God realm must not give up on the little Zai, and must not give up the hope of the three realms. After deliberation, it was decided that the moment he saw Zai, he would immediately crush the talisman in his hand. After Tianzhou Shenjun snatched Zai and crushed the talisman, the army of the God realm immediately went to the border to protect Zai back to the God realm. At this moment, Shenjun Tianzhou silently hid the talisman in the deepest place and never dared to touch it again. Rob. No, we just want to escape intact. You said you were here to pick up Zai. Do you think you should take it back now, or should we take it back with you right away? Ozone looked at the Emperor of Heaven sincerely. The Emperor's eyes twitched. Now. Immediately. Pa, did you choose for us? The Emperor of Heaven had a serious expression on his face. How can you say that? It was you who picked up Zizay because of your sincerity. What's the point of robbing people in our God realm? Isn't this going to poke the backbone of the God realm? We can rest assured that Zizay lives in the Buddhist world. As long as she doesn't want to leave, no one can force her. Even though the child is young, we must respect the child's wishes. The Emperor nodded seriously. Hands behind his back, his face was gloomy. The energy to the child half an hour ago was wiped out. Suddenly, the Emperor of Heaven felt numb. A chill rushed straight to the sky. Uncle Dian. A soft and waxy voice exploded in his ears. Not good. It is the despair of being locked in. Uncle Dian, when did you come? The little girl raised her head and looked at him with watery eyes. The little hands were soft, holding Dian's hand and shaking it. Uncle Dian, let's twist together. Let's dance together. Sway together. It is like a magic sound piercing the ears. Dian looked at the venerables in the hall, whose wooden fish were about to be knocked away, and his scalp felt numb. Uncle Dian, don't you love me anymore? Yan Yan pouted slightly. Uncle Dian, are you envious? Xiao Yanyan had an idea. Are you envious of hosting a grand event for the Buddhist community? Oh, Uncle Dian, I can go to God. Before he finished speaking, Dian covered his mouth. Jump, I jump. Yanyan, you can't just favor Uncle Dian. The other uncles can't favor one over the other, otherwise everyone will feel very uncomfortable. Dian ignored the cannibalistic looks from around him. It's embarrassing for me to be alone, no way. Let's all be embarrassed together, we can do it. Tianzhou Shenjun gritted his teeth. The night passed. 10,000 Buddhas shed tears. Buddha stood in front of the stage of reincarnation and sent away one venerable person after another. I'll be back in one lifetime. Go back early and bring back a new wooden fish. There was a hole in your fish last night. The great power who has been in seclusion for 8,000 years is still confused. He is a contemporary of the Buddhist sect, but he has always ignored other people's affairs and has been in seclusion all year round. Senior brother, you haven't told me yet, what happened to me in this calamity? Why do you have to go down to experience the tribulation? By the way, yesterday's Dharma session was really exciting. Everyone participated. I have been practicing for 60,000 years, and I never knew I could practice like this. Oh my, it's so interesting. Senior brother, I have a treasonous idea, I haven't finished my thought yet. Ozone raised his foot and kicked him down. Two little guys with round faces, heads hanging down, carrying large packages on their backs, watched the whole process. He looked like he had made a mistake and did not dare to raise his head. 182. 397. 1633. 7892. The two dolls counted expressionlessly. Until, there are countless more to come, until no one comes to jump on the stage of reincarnation again. Grandpa Buddha, have we gotten into trouble? The two children had red eyes, holding back tears and not daring to shed them. Grandpa Buddha, how many people have been reincarnated? Xiao Yanyan asked timidly. Ozone sighed for a long time. Including all the bodhisattvas and the novice monks, there are a total of 36,688 people. Ozone touched Xiao Yanyan's head and tapped her lightly on the forehead. The two children breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. There are tens to millions of heavenly soldiers and generals in the divine realm. The Buddhist realm has always been on an equal footing with the divine realm, and it's almost the same when you think about it. The emperor's cheeks twisted up. Actually, a single bodhisattva in Buddhism can withstand countless heavenly soldiers. So, it's not based on the number of people. The emperor gave a small reminder. Xiao Yanyan was stunned for a moment, then asked casually, how many people are there in the Buddhist sect? Buddha looked up at the sky and said quietly, 36,689 people. Xiao Huizi tugged on his sister's hand. I can't figure it out, sister, how much is left? Xiao Xian silently looked at brother Hanpi and stretched out a finger. What's wrong with your finger? I won't touch your fingers, I have them. After saying that, he bit his chubby white index finger. Children who are 2 or 3 years old always like to eat their fingers secretly. Xiao Yanyan was anxious. Who told you to eat your hands? There is still. Xiao Huizi looked at the bare finger. Ah! Can Dad come and save us? He looked at his sister seriously. The Buddha had a faint smile on his face, clasped his hands together and said calmly, you go. Even if I am alone, I can keep the Buddha's heart. I am waiting for my disciple to return. This is their calamity. His voice was light, he could pick it up and put it down, and he could see through all the vicissitudes of life. The two milk dolls looked at each other. Performed a deep Buddhist ritual. The compassion of Buddhism is shallow, but the disciples are shallow. The little person is particularly interesting when he is serious. The two of them left with everyone in the God realm. When I left, the breeze blew across my face, and I seemed to hear a whimpering sound. Probably, it's the sound of the wind. End of this chapter. My koi sister is 3.5 years old. Author, Xia Shengsheng. Chapter 400. Chapter 400 Making Trouble in the God Realm. Sister, why is Buddha covering his face? Xiao Huizi turned around, pulled his sister's clothes and asked. Xiao Xian didn't even raise his head. Miss us? Oh, let's stay here more often in the future. Xiao Huizi was simple and kind, with sympathy on her little face. Di Yin twitched his lips. A fellow mother is indeed fair. Twins have 800 eyes. Sister accounts for 800. Brother is a good addition. The two of them left the Buddhist world and were now standing on top of the clouds. Wow, there are so many heavenly soldiers and generals. Is there going to be a war somewhere? Xiao Huizi pointed at the heavenly soldiers hidden in the clouds and asked crisply. The eyes of the Emperor of Heaven and the Lords of the Gods twitched. Oops. In order to the twins, make arrangements before going out. At this moment, the heavenly troops are waiting for you. Emperor Tian rarely stuttered, looking a little nervous. Actually, God Realm is just doing training. It's just regular training. The Emperor secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that they were about to separate, the two little guys followed him step by step, making the Emperor feel numb. Uncle Heavenly Emperor, you said last time. Show me the 9 heavens where my mother lived. Show me the lotus pond where my mother was raised. Show me the Zuxiantai. Xiao Xian raised his head and looked at the Emperor eagerly. Cold sweat broke out on the Emperor Tian's forehead and he coughed dryly. Looking nervously at Lord Tianzhou, several of the lords looked away one after another. The Emperor of Heaven was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. At that time, in order to coax her to go to the God Realm and to make her favor the God Realm, he deliberately bewitched her. Who knew it would be today? Ever since your mother left, Zhongtian has been closed. No one is allowed to enter. The lotus pond that raised your mother has been filled in. What's so interesting about Zuxian Terrace? It's a place where people kill people. 2 pairs of eyes looked at the Emperor of Heaven, who was breaking out in a cold sweat. Xiao Xian, why doesn't Uncle Heavenly Emperor invite me to sit in the God Realm? The two looked at him expectantly. You haven't been to the fallen angel realm yet, have you? That's the base camp founded by your father. It's your second home. The Emperor changed the subject dryly. Xiao Huizi looked at him suspiciously. It was clear that the last time he came, he said righteously that the fallen angel world was full of people with dark minds. Why did it change so quickly? Uncle Heavenly Emperor, don't you like us? The two little guys looked at each other and looked at him with tears in their eyes. The Emperor of Heaven looked left and right, but none of the gods dared to look at him. There was a long silence. Finally, Under the tearful gazes of the two children, he gritted his teeth and nodded in agreement. Go and find out why the Taoist sect sent them out. The Emperor of Heaven immediately sent someone to investigate. The news has not come back yet. The two dolls went to the divine world. Soon. The Emperor of Heaven then experienced firsthand the hardships of Taoism and Buddhism. Lingxiao Palace. The Emperor of Heaven is instructing the gods to greet Holy Lord Yuyuan, who has come out of seclusion. Holy Lord Yuyuan is a spiritual medicine that ascends to heaven and earth through cultivation. He has advanced cultivation and is the best at medical skills. Hua Tuo, who caused a lot of commotion in the world at that time, was just his medicine boy. Holy Lord Yuyuan is a distinguished guest from the divine world. At this moment, the Emperor of Heaven sent many gods to welcome him and entertain him. Before Holy Lord Yuyuan could receive him, Xiao Yanyan entered the Lingxiao Palace holding a bird. Uncle Heavenly Emperor, this bird is so hot. Xiao Xian grabbed a big golden bird that was struggling. The big bird's body exudes a blazing golden light and is full of scorching heat. The Emperor of Heaven turned his head and his eyes instantly widened. He wanted to reach out and touch it, but he was so burned that he threw away his hand. Put it down, put it down, put it down, golden crow. Sun, the Emperor of Heaven hurriedly checked, and found that the sun had not been seen for 3 days, and there was darkness for 3 days and 3 nights. The little guy Nana loosened his hand and one of the golden crow feathers was torn off. Flee the scene quickly. It turns out to be the sun, no wonder it's so hot, the little guy smiled guiltily. Hide your hands behind your back, not daring to show them. The Emperor of Heaven rubbed his brows. The first day in the God realm. Caught the golden crow, and the 3 realms were dark. And exploded the gate of Zhongtian. The second day in the God realm. The positions of the South Tianmen and the North Tianmen were changed overnight. I just wanted to see if anyone could find out. The cowherd and the weaver girl met once a year. She went for a walk and left on the Chinese Valentine's Day. The third day of going to the God realm. Starting to have gods come one after another to go down to experience the calamity. It is said that after seeing her, his heart became unsteady and he might have inner demons. Who knows what she did? The emperor was terrified when he thought that there was only one Buddhist sect left in the Buddhist world. My hair is almost falling out. The emperor looked at the 2 children in front of him, sighed silently, and pulled his hair, his face full of exhaustion. How is it more difficult than raising heirs? When Sushui is conceived, it is just a blank piece of paper. Even if he is a little naughty, in front of these 2 people, he is nothing compared to a big witch. These 2 are a scourge. These 2 are better monsters than her mother. Tell me honestly, what else have you done? Tell me all together, and I will deal with it together. The Emperor of Heaven sighed. His distinguished guest, Holy Lord Yuyuan, was about to enter the realm, so he had to spare some time. I don't know what happened this time. It has been 3 days, and Holy Lord Yuyuan has not yet entered the realm. Strangeness. The gods who guided them have been unable to find any trace of the other party. I didn't cause any trouble. Xiao Xian pursed his lips in embarrassment. I saw that you were tired and distressed, so I made you a jar of wine. I want to replenish your health, the little girl said, sniffing her nose and wiping her tears. In order to find the elixir for you, my whole body is covered with wounds. Good intentions are not rewarded. As he spoke, he began to cry quietly. The emperor couldn't bear it, sighed, and squatted down helplessly to wipe her tears. Uncle Heavenly Emperor understands your good intentions. That's all. By the way, where is the medicinal wine you brewed? Show it to Uncle Heavenly Emperor. Seeing their sadness, Heavenly Emperor couldn't help but change his attention and asked. Xiao Xian wiped his sleeve on his face. Wipe away tears. Han took out a wine jar from the storage space in his arms. The wine jar is completely transparent, but there is a glimmering light all around, and occasionally runes can be seen emerging. The wine is still sealed with a barrier, the Emperor of Heaven murmured. Just through the barrier, he could feel the overwhelming spiritual energy coming from the wine jar. Suddenly I had a bad feeling. It must be sealed, the elixir will escape. Big supplement, big supplement, big supplement. This elixir has become refined. It will grow legs and run away. Xiao Huizi gestured with his teeth and claws. Xiao Xian's head straightened. Yes, 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 you have long legs just like a human. The light dissipated, and the Emperor of Heaven walked toward the wine jar with fear. This glance. The Emperor's knees almost weakened and he passed away. At this moment, Emperor Tian's scalp was numb and he almost jumped up in shock. Holy Lord Yu Yuan. The distinguished guest, Holy Lord Yu Yuan, is nowhere to be found in the divine world. Saint Lord Yu Yuan, who is in charge of all the miracle doctors in the world, was beaten back to his original form and soaked in a wine jar. End of this chapter.